What's going on, everybody? The original Mako back, and boy, am I excited and not excited at the same time. I'm excited because we have more Cult of the Lamb stuff to look at. Actually, there's a lot of stuff to look at. We're not going to be looking at a ton, but I'll explain why in a minute. But once again, no release date, so Sag. Regardless, make sure you check the links down below as always. If you want to stay up to date on all things Cult of the Lamb, then make sure you hit the subscribe button because I can assure you that we will be covering a lot of content on this game. So if you're excited for it, hit the subscribe button because I will keep you updated on all the latest news and happenings with Cult of the Lamb. And then when the game comes out, you already know the best content around is going to be right here. And check out the Twitch link down below as always. If you want to see me play some other roguelikes and have a lot of fun playing some other games up until Cult of the Lamb, check it out. And we have a lot of fun over there. Super interactive, super fun, and a lot of cool people. But that being said, we are going to hop into analyzing some stuff from the Unity some sort of Unity showcase. Yeah, Unity showcase, essentially, that they did. And Cult of the Lamb was a big part of it. Now, Unity showcase means, hey, a lot of the stuff they're looking at here is the game dev side of things. But there's a lot of gameplay, talk about what the game's like and whatnot. So I wanted to skip around and kind of talk about those parts. But I would highly recommend watching it. The whole thing's about an hour and a half, and they go into depth, if you're interested in the whole background of it. And there's a couple things that was really interesting, such as there used to be a lamb cult, an owl cult, a goat cult, and a snake cult, and there were 4 different types of cults in the game. Now, I don't know if they were you were still the Cult of the Lamb, but everybody else was enemy cults, or if you could pick what cult you wanted to be a part of. And they had really cool designs for those characters, but that ended up getting scrapped. And there's a bunch of just cool tidbits like that. But we're going to be jumping around and focusing on the highlights, and bear with me while we focus on them because as we jump around, there's going to be a lot of different stuff to look at. And I'm sure I'm not going to cover everything I wanted to, but regardless, we're going to start by one of the lead programmers is going to talk about kind of the followers of your cult and how they kind of work and whatnot. So we're just going to be looking at that, and I'll be talking about it.
Right. And if we could share my screen, I'd love to.
And I'm going to need to turn that up, that's for sure. Forgot I had to turn it down for the... let me make sure this isn't going to be too loud. Let's see.
To show you guys the base in action, so we can sort of see the followers, interacting with each other.
Yeah, we can probably share your screen.
So if are we on? Awesome.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So yeah, awesome. Thank you. So Cult of the J. That's what everyone.
So first cool thing here that you notice, and he'll talk about it in a second, but you do actually get to name your cult, and it'll pop up on the screen every time you go to your base, which is kind of cool. So just quick little thing.
Everyone should call their cults.
Can you name your own cult?
We can see.
So real quick, I want to make a few things. Obviously, we can see the health bar now. We get a look at a lot of stuff here. So health bar, it looks like it's based off of how many hits you take, not like a amount of damage that you take, but it looks like it's hit based. You've got some different types of currency. I think he talks about this here, but this is your faith meter. And then in the upper right, you have a day-night, or I guess how many days you've gone through and how close you are to nighttime and whatnot, because there's a day-night cycle. Now, it's not like the whole day. It's not like it's going to gradually get darker and darker. It's literally either day or it's night. But this gives a really good look at what a base can look like after you've built it up a lot. Earlier in the conference, the developers talked about how it's not a roguelike. It is a blend and equally balanced between a roguelike and a colony building simulator where you have to gather resources, build your base, do all that type of stuff. So it's even between the two, which means base building is a huge part of the game. So you can get a good look at the farming and buildings and followers and whatnot. And he'll talk more about it, but just wanted to kind of give my little take on what's happening here.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't know that. Oh, amazing.
After a few days, a follower will come up to you and say, hey, we've been here a while. We need a name for this place. And so actually, this is the goop shader that we were talking about here.
Hey.
Yeah, there you go. So here we can see a whole bunch of followers. They've all got a number of problems here. So you can see these guys are kind of hungry, they're starving. This guy's dissenting. He's had enough of your lies and he's going to dissent. And these guys here, they haven't got any work to do, so they're just dancing, hanging out. And here we can see our farm and all sorts of, and you can see, oh, it's nighttime here. So you see time passes, they all go to bed. So the way that they
so
work,
cute.
I know, look at little yawn, good night, sleep well. So and these guys don't have beds, so these guys are sleeping on the ground, and that's actually a problem. I need to build some more beds, and that affects my faith meter over here. So we were talking a little bit about how do we get all those cult mechanics in, and it's it's through the followers. These guys, the way they work is each of the followers has like a follower brain. It's not a mono behavior. It's just like a C# script, and in it contains all their serialized data and information, like how hungry they are, how tired they are, how pissed off with your nonsense they are, whether they're going to dissent, how old they are, so they can actually age and die. This guy here has died of old age, poor guy.
So sad.
Funny here.
So, one thing I want to talk about real quick. The whole, you have to have a bed for all of your followers, and, you need to allocate resources to keep them happy. Ideally, not everybody's going to be happy, but whatnot, keeping them fed and stuff. Really cool. But this, the whole old age thing is cool as well. But this seems to be a very, very common theme from what I saw watching this. A lot of choices in the game. You're going to be given a choice between something wholesome, and something that's a lot more cultish, hence the name of the game, Cult of the Lamb. Like, for example here, Bunyan, rest his soul, has died of old age. He got old and died, and, more power to him. Good for you, Bunyan. You made it to the old age and died from it. So you could prepare him for burial, give him a nice burial, send him off the right way. All his friends and family can sit there and watch as he's, slowly lifted into the ground. Now you could also harvest his meat and feed it to the followers, which is a much like polar opposites there. And it seems like that is a big theme throughout the entirety of the game, having certain options like this with certain benefits and repercussions for each. I'm sure, if you harvest his meat, it gives you a lot more food. You'll have a lot less starving people, but you probably lose some faith points or lose something else. And just a lot of give and take, which is really cool. Especially having such polar opposite types of things that you can do. But anyway, back to the talking.
Yeah, so sad. So I can, so there's all sorts of things I can do. I can prepare him for burial, wrap him up, dig him, or I could harvest his meat and cook him up and feed him to my followers. Depends what kind of.
We're too soft for this game, even though we really want to play it. It's just like, oh my god.
Well, that's an option. It's not on us developers. We give you the tools.
We make that choice. Yeah.
Let it out. Let it out. So they have this brain that exists, and when they're in the scene like they are now, they have a mono behavior which controls these little follower prefabs. But if I was to move into my temple here, you can see all the lights change. It's really cool. Like another back to the tech art side of things. But they've all
after losing your focus, just 1 second. Sorry. Yeah, sorry. We're back again. There you go.
Okay, cool. So they've all been deleted or unloaded or whatever, and now we spawn in a scriptable object, simulated follower, and they'll still continue to run. So that when I come back out, they've all woken up because it's daytime. They're all still hungrier, and it all runs. And if there was actually work to do, then they would all be making progress. So we have those kind of two layers to it, because when you're in the scene with them, you want them to do stuff like this guy here is listening to the dissenter, and you're kind of thinking, I wonder if he's got a good idea. Some of them, like Jim talked about, will go up to poop and either be disgusted or laugh. But none of that stuff happens in the simulation, but the simulation still needs to run the tasks. So the follow brain will control tasks, and whether they're simulated or they're kind of in the scene, will kind of run different kind of instances of them, if that makes sense. Not to get too technical, but similarly, a lot of the buildings have brains and they're simulated as well. So here you can see a farm, and I can sort of plant some seeds, and I need to water them. But when I come back, they'll have continued to grow, and you can see these are fully grown beetroot here.
As most
that I can
farms
then
do,
harvest.
makes sense.
But they also have brains, and they're also simulated. So, for example, if you don't have these scarecrows, birds like these little guys will come down and eat the seeds and then fly off. And in the simulated version, it would just kind of be a boolean like yes, I have a bird, delete the seed. But if you're in the scene, you wanna have the bird fly in, and then as the player
I
gets
mean,
close,
right now you're
have
just
it
talking
fly
about a lot
off.
of
So we have
coding,
like, a
technical,
companion
game design
mono
stuff,
behavior to
but
control
still
that.
cool to see a look at all the
So,
gameplay
while
and
we're here,
a quick
and,
explanation.
all that technical stuff is over, I wanted to show you some of our cult mechanics.
Okay, so here we're about to get a look at a lot of new things that we have not seen yet. And we're in the temple right now, so there's a lot of things you can do from the temple that are, one of which that we'll get to see was shown off in the trailer, kind of, but not the gameplay version. It was like the trailerized version, so we'll get to see the actual gameplay version, but we'll take a look.
So here's your temple. This is your altar. This is where you do most of your stuff. You can see we have sermons, we have rituals, we have crown, which kind of manages the different unlock.
So we're going to stop and take a look at stuff here. So it's kind of like, it looks to me, at first impression, was like a skill tree. In the observation of our rites, we taste divinity. Through the study of our doctrine, we are blessed by the sacrament of the Lamb. And a quick example of the one he's hovering over is once a day you eat a meal to receive a heart. It costs a certain amount of upgrade points. You eat meal, you receive a heart, bada bing, bada boom, you're good.
And upgrades you might have for your character. And then we also have a doctrine, which you can see what you've unlocked and what are the things that your cult.
Okay. Another thing to look at here is the doctrine, which is, I guess, from what I understand, like kind of the rules that your cult lives by, and you can kind of vary these from world to world. I don't know if you can change them up mid-world or what have you, but a good example is this cult has the belief in sacrifice trait. So all cult members will gain the belief in sacrifice trait. You get plus 20 faith when another cult member is sacrificed. So normally, if you don't have this trait, and I think this gets talked about a little bit, but if you wouldn't have this trait, you would lose some faith points. But now, since your cult believes in the sacrificing of other members, when you sacrifice, you actually gain faith. So something kind of cool there. And once again, a lot of this stuff we just haven't gotten to see. We haven't gotten to see a ton of gameplay stuff. So it was cool to get an insight into all of that.
It's a nice book.
Very pretty book.
Yeah, very nice. And so, yeah, let me show you a sermon. I'll show you a ritual. So you kind of hit the sermon. Your followers all kind of walk in, even the ones who are dissenting. And
That's very cute.
So this is the part we saw in the trailer. Once again, this is a sermon, and he's going to give a sermon. Everybody's going to listen.
Say. And there we go. They're listening. They're sending their faith to you. And then it'll unlock, this is a particular point of the game where there's just one choice, but usually there's two choices. And it could be anything like, do I want to unlock a ritual where I can have my followers fight to the death? Or do I want to have like a wedding ritual?
All right. So once again, another example of having multiple choices. And like he said, this is an example where you only have one, but most of the time you're going to have two choices to make, and you have to pick what ritual you want to unlock. So the example here is obviously the fire pit ritual, where you light the fires and dance deep into the night, and it gives you plus 40 faith. But you'll have to make options on, or pick options on which ones you want to unlock. So, once again, just another thing to keep in mind.
Where I can marry them. And so it's up to you, kind of like, sometimes, there's a darker version and a lighter option. This is like, obviously not a good example of it, but this is unlocking a new ritual.
Yeah, usually there's a question as well, so it'll be more like, do you believe in the afterlife, or do you believe there's nothing after you die? And then kind of having those unlocks attached to those questions.
Oh, that's an interesting way to do it.
Yes, exactly. Well said.
So
and they just put a bunch of coins in my.
We have a question from the chat as well, if you want to take.
Oh yeah, going back to the technical parts, Smirking Ravens asks, how did...
Okay, so I believe we need to skip forward another minute or two.
Five.
Sorry,
faith.
we haven't got to 11. There we go. Sorry.
Okay, So here's a good example of what the ritual screen looks like. So obviously you do the sermon, you get enough faith, you unlock these rituals, and then you get to perform them. Obviously, it costs a certain amount of whatever that is. Ear Q-tips on a stick. I don't know. But you get to pick what kind of ritual you want to do. Once again, the example here, sacrifice a follower in the name of the cult and reap the rewards. And then you just unlocked the fire pit one, and he's going to show some off, but we'll just watch this real quick.
Sorry about that. Go ahead, Jay.
No worries. Yeah, so you can see here the sacrifice. You can see it's +5 faith because I have a belief in sacrifice, whereas normally it'd be like a negative faith thing. So the different traits that we pick really affects like how your cult acts and, and how much you can take advantage of them, because that's such a big part of this game is making sure that you are a leader of a cult. You need to be able to take advantage of them. So I actually wanted to show you guys. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I think that's kind of been one of the big things about the game is like trying to figure out this balance between like looking after your followers, but then also kind of like trying to exploit them as much as you can. And that can just be simple, like they all pray to shrine, and that's like the basic way you unlock is they'll kind of all go to the shrine and pray there. But you can kind of choose what work they do, and you're kind of very much in control of them and their kind of schedule and stuff like that. And that's kind of been quite important in just even figuring out how do we make a game about a cult, and how do we take these ideas and translate them into kind of mechanics. And I think
There, we'll get it back now.
Okay. So we'll go back and see the ritual here in just a second.
There we go. Thank you so much. Sorry about that, Jay. We're having some tech issues.
Yeah,
No
so
worries.
you could show the shrine there as well.
Yeah. So,
Oh, no.
so these guys are. So I can receive devotion from this shrine here. So normally these guys, you can see over here, praying, and they're adding devotion into the shrine, which I withdraw whenever I come back. And when I get enough, I can then unlock a new building, a new structure type. So actually, let me see if I can.
Using your inbuilt debugs
yeah.
instead of your cheat mode, basically.
You're like, what was the cheat yet?
I can't remember the cheat.
Quick.
But, I could show you guys.
Quick note. This has nothing to do with the game. This guy down here, love him. He's been doing a lot of the stuff for Cult of the Lamb. He was in the other video I made not that long ago, actually. You know how when you type out a laugh, assuming you don't type LOL or like LMAO, like you type ha 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 ha, like HAHA, repeating. And that's how most people, laugh. I don't think I've ever heard somebody who laughs AHAHAH, but this guy does. And he laughed so many times throughout this presentation, and it's an AHAH laugh, and it sounds so fake. And I'm sure it's not. I'm sure he's like genuinely, having a good time. But I started to get a little annoyed. Now, once again, just great guy from what I've seen, but I've never heard somebody laugh like that. Regardless, back to the ritual.
Guys, a ritual. So you can see, like, here we got the wedding one. You'd marry them. Here's like a fast where they just won't eat, and so that solves your food problem for a few days.
Make them married, please.
Yeah,
Let's get some marriage in here. We'll be happy then.
Yeah,
All right, so the ritual he's performing is a wedding ritual, which will be kind of interesting. So we'll look at this.
Yeah, lift the spirits.
Yeah, it's just everything's so dark. It's like finally.
So you get to pick.
I like how the
who you're
ritual
gonna
itself
marry.
is dark. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna get married. Oh, spooky.
Giraffe. They're also
Oh,
quirky.
Timmy the pig.
Timmy the pig. No, that's not Timmy. Timmy's very different. He's more unique.
Marry Timmy.
Wait, you married Timmy?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So everybody's all happy. The wedding
And now
ceremony.
everyone's happy, and so we get like a big faith boost. And you can, because it's your cult, you can then marry someone else. But Timmy will start getting jealous, and so you'll lose faith.
Oh, quick. Hold on. 74307. Quick thing.
And so we get like a big faith boost.
See if I can
And
read
you
the first one.
Because it's your cult, you can.
So it tells you, you married the person, whoever. But you also have a little negative thing here where you woke everyone and disturbed their sleep for the night. So you actually lose faith.
Then marry someone else.
Which is
but
important
Timmy
to
will
know
start
that
getting
can
jealous,
happen.
And so you'll lose faith.
Okay.
I got it
We're
again.
faithful to poor Timmy.
Oh no, you're good. I just I realized that particle system I never turned off once I added it in. So
Oh, is that why it's in the background there?
Okay.
yeah, I kept going. Yeah.
And also, I don't know if they said it already, but if you were to go and marry a different follower at some point, do another wedding ceremony, then that follower that you married originally would get jealous and be like, hey, this isn't very cool, and be more likely to like rebel against you and try to start a mutiny or something. So kind of cool feature.
So that's kind of like, you know, a lot about the follow. Oh yeah, it's still going.
There it is. Yeah. That's what happens when I program. So, yeah.
So I can show you guys some
cool little area here, by the way. I'm just gonna kind of graze past this, but
Oh, is that why it's in the background there?
the
Yeah,
deciding where you want to go area
Okay,
is a pretty
so-
cool place. We'll look at it again.
So that's kind of like, you know, a lot about the follow. Oh yeah, it's still going.
There
I
it
gotta
is.
change
Yeah.
scenes.
That's what happens when I program. So, yeah.
Like picking what dungeon to go to, this area looks really cool.
So I can show you guys.
I digress.
Because I want to talk a little bit about how we generate the dungeons.
Sure thing.
Well. So there's like 3 layers to the kind of dungeon crawling side of it. We have like the top layer, which we call the adventure map, which is kind of like oh, here it's so grab some weapons first. So
I didn't know if it would give me a description for the thing he was
the top
picking up.
kind of layer is when you finish.
Okay, so he's gonna talk very, very technical here. I'll let it play a little bit, but I am gonna skip forward, like far forward soon, because he's gonna talk a lot about how the dungeon is generated and whatnot. But one thing to note, it has a very traditional roguelike map where you get to pick where you go, pick what kind of resources you want to get, if you want to go to a shop, combat things, a new follower, I'm guessing, or what have you. I mean, kind of how I've just heard it described is you're going into the dungeons to get these resources to help you build your cult and your base. So depending on what resources you need, depends on that kind of determines where you want to go. But once again, just something to note, a very traditional roguelike type of map.
You get a choice of where to go next. Normally take out nodes.
Julian's
We'll let the dungeon
shader
play
attempt
a little
to show
bit
us and
because
now just
it is
ruined
just
everything.
gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
No, it looks great
Yeah,
still,
I
so
think
don't
it looks
worry.
good.
Yeah, it looks
I love
great.
it.
Gives me a nautical feel.
That's it.
So
Okay, and I know the bit rate's bad. He's sharing screen and what have you, but
here we can see a bit of combat. This is kind of the dungeon floor with all the combat in it. Not doing great because I'm talking and playing at the same time. But it's kind of the way we lay it out is a series of rooms, and we're just using random walk for this, which is kind of like, you know, I think I saw it in a Binding of Isaac video, and just kind of like, oh yeah, that's a great solution. But once I kill these guys, I will. See, the thing about this game is like a lot of different games that we love kind of mushed together, as well as the cult spins. So.
okay, so something to note real quick, and he will talk about it, but I'll probably skip forward before he does. There's a mini map right here. It is extremely, extremely linear from what I've seen. Like there's only one option. Like you can only go in one direction, which I think they talk about as being an intentional choice. Not sure how I feel about it. I wish it was a little more exploration-y when it comes to that aspect of it. But still, I still think it looks fantastic. They also talked about how originally, instead of having individual rooms, it was like a whole, everything was kind of like mashed together, and it was just a kind of progress through this big area as opposed to a bunch of smaller areas. But if you're interested in learning more about how they generate these dungeons, and the another big thing they talk about is like the stuff, or the artwork around these little areas, then once again, I highly encourage you to watch this entire thing if you want to get some real good behind the scenes looks. But we don't A, have time to go through all that, B, most of you probably don't care, but if you do, check it out. Once again, you can go to Unity Tech and go to day 2 of the GDC and find the VOD. But we are going to take a look here at one of the bosses and or mini bosses. And once again, they're explaining how it's animated and what have you. But I want to show you guys it in game. So you get to see the trailer a little bit, but this we actually get to see a little a little gameplay of it. So let's watch this.
Like that. But then after you've kind of beaten everything and you go back to the dungeons, they kind of all the enemies get stronger, and then there's more randomization to those, so you never quite know what you're going to expect. But there is kind of story elements to the game, and sort of as you progress through, you will kind of see them in sequence.
Of course.
Yeah. So here's
It's kind of like mini bosses. There's like these more mini bosses, and then these are like the big boss fights with the kind of cult leaders that you encounter.
I thought the cult leaders were all
16
animals.
mini bosses.
What exactly is this creature?
It's a tennis
Leshy.
ball.
A tennis balls I can agree with. Unless you have no idea.
The original mock-up, everyone kept calling it that. I was like, what the hell?
I mean, it's a very
Yeah,
scary tennis ball, but it's a tennis
Yeah.
ball.
So he's a worm. So the kind of when we're designing the enemies, we started off with like lots of different things and kind of had like more humanoid things. But what we kind of realized is if we just kind of theme each dungeon around a certain animal, it just made like the design a lot more consistent and stuff like that. So this dungeon's theme is kind of worms. So everything's kind of like a worm, and we kind of use that in mechanics as well. Like, so all the enemies kind of use similar wormy mechanics. And then the second dungeon is
Cool
frogs.
looking ability, by the
I
way,
think
the
we
little
have,
tentacle thing.
jellyfish and then spiders.
It's actually informing the dungeons themselves based on what it is based on.
Yeah,
That's actually a great way to do it.
And the
'cause
kind of mechanics.
you get that feel for it as well. Okay, are the mechanics like earlier on, like into the? I'm trying to explain that. Do the monsters mechanics early in the dungeon inform like what the boss might be like as well? Like so that the
Yeah.
digging under the spike attacks, is that something that you see?
Hold up, real quick, because I actually didn't look at that earlier.
Monsters
so I'll look
mechanics
at that
early in the
now.
dungeon inform like what the boss might be like as well. Like so that the
Yeah.
digging under the.
So you've taken a heart of the heretic after you beat the boss. The red crown can feast upon this heart and unlock new powers. Visit the shrine at Ritu's hut to unleash true power of the red crown. Oh, so you unlock some new abilities after killing the boss. Cool.
The spike attacks, is that something that you see?
Yeah, we try to teach the player the mechanics a bit, and then
Okay.
kind of obviously like test them on their experience with it, and like hopefully they've kind of mastered a few of the mechanics, and then we.
I'm sorry to keep pausing, but like I'm interjecting my opinions and thoughts here. That's how React content works. Big news, big thing right now. React content is taking fire. Regardless, maybe some of you will get this reference, maybe some of you won't. But they just said that like mechanics earlier in dungeons will kind of help teach you what's going to happen in the boss fight and get you kind of prepared for it. And the boss fight's kind of like a final or a midterm or test on what you learned from the earlier mechanics. A really good example of a game that just comes to mind because I just played through this was the Destiny 2 Witch Queen Legendary campaign, where they had all the mechanics for the big final boss fight at the end of the mission leading up to that fight. And then at the end, it's like, oh, let's put all of these mechanics together. You already know all of the mechanics, but time to put them together. And then the Legendary campaign's mechanics got people ready for some of the stuff in the raid. So that kind of teaching and then testing is really cool. And I'm a huge fan of everything kind of intertwining like that. So
We kind of like ramp it up a bunch for the big bus.
acquired a follower form, a new animal form your followers can take. So this is something they talked about earlier that I will not be able to find in this VOD, I can assure you. But essentially, all of your followers, you can pick what they look like. Like, they'll start with a singular form, but you can unlock new forms like this and change what your followers look like. So after unlocking this form, for example, you could have every single one of your followers look like this if you want. And I believe they said it doesn't mechanically change anything. Like, it doesn't change how they act or their personality traits or anything. It just changes how they appear. So something kind of cool you can do there. Kind of like skins or something.
Fights.
Oh, that's really cute.
Nice, good little beetle. I love that guy.
I love the beetle. Me too. Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the beetle's awesome. I think it'll.
No, it looks great. Oh, heretics defeated. Not just the boss defeated.
Yeah.
Heretics.
Oh,
Wow, you're really cheating. And then those are the resources you were talking about as well. They go back to for your actual base to be used.
Yes.
So there's another look at a little mini boss. I think that's most of the stuff that I wanted to cover from this interaction here. Once again, we might be able to get a quick look. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. So these were all the different cult leaders. So we obviously have the cult of the lamb here, but this was like the cult of the goat, the cult of the snake, and cult of the owl. And originally there was going to be the 4 different things, and it never came to be. But once again, I'd highly recommend checking all this out. I believe the interview starts. Yeah, it starts right around 6:40 of the VOD. Once again, Unity Tech, Unity Showcase, live at GDC Day 2, if you want to look at the whole thing. Like I said, it's about an hour and a half-ish long. But super cool, super fun interview if you want to see some more behind-the-scenes stuff. But I figured I'd show you guys kind of the highlights of gameplay from the video that we had never seen before. And a lot of cool new things that we're learning. But we're still missing the coolest new thing to learn, which would be the release date, or at least release time. Like, is it coming out in summer? Is it coming out in fall? Is it going to be like Christmas Eve? Like, at least a time frame would be kind of cool. Something else to note really quickly. They talked about multiplayer and like co-op, which is not going to be in the game at launch. They pretty much confirmed that, but they said it's something they would definitely be keen, in their words, keen on doing as a post-release, post-launch update, which A, means co-op, which is sick, possibly, but B, also means that when I hear that from developers, that makes me think that they are fully planning on launching this game and developing some more content for it. Like, they're not done with launch. A lot of games fully release and then they're like, cut, we're out, see ya. We're going to take your money, we're out of here. But it sounds like they want to add some type of content. I don't know how much. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks there, and maybe this isn't true at all. Maybe I'm just blowing smoke up my own ass or something. But regardless, could potentially mean that. So something kind of cool. Regardless, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I'm super excited for this game. Hopefully you guys are too. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, hit the subscribe button because this is going to be the Cult of the Lamb hub for all the content you need. So hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications so you know when I post. And I really appreciate it. Hopefully you all have a wonderful rest of your day. Love each and every one of your faces, and I will catch you all in the next video.